I think to set the stage, can you maybe just in a few words describe or explain what this ruling actually is about?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So the ruling and the reason why it's getting so much attention is pretty straightforward, folks. I mean, we've paid around $300 billion worth of IEEPA and fentanyl-related tariffs on imports that have come in from around the world, and it was done under a trade remedy, but it wasn't really a trade remedy. Most of you are familiar with the idea of tariffs, and we deal with tariffs every day. But there are other tariffs that are trade remedies, like the 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum, the 301 tariffs. IEEPA is a concept that was given to the president, which had never been used before, where in times of crisis, times of emergency, the president would be able to take action in order to assist the American citizen in ways that it would take the whole government force behind it to do something. Okay. So when these tariffs went into effect, the national emergencies that were that were provoked in this were a couple. One being the incredible number of Americans who have died from accidental, unintended fentanyl overdoses, and the second was the perception of critical damage that was happening to the American economy because of unfair trade practices by many of our political and economic rivals. Okay, so the question then became: was the use of IEEPA the proper methodology for handling these tariffs, for putting them out there, and for trying to get some kind of trade remedy? And that's where you have a lot of philosophical differences. So there are people who believe that the president under IEEPA has the power to do whatever he needs to do in order to address a national security. And there are those that say that there were other existing trade remedies that the president could have used: the 301s, the 232s, 122s, 338s. For those who aren't familiar with all of these, don't worry. Until like a year ago, nobody was. So these trade remedies, as they were prescribed, are more difficult to do. There's complications around them. The president has to ask for a study to be done, an investigation. That investigation takes time. Also, he's limited to what those tariffs can be. Under IEEPA, those constraints weren't there. He was able to put it in nearly immediately, which, for the shock and awe that was really hoped by the president and his team, was very effective. We all woke up one day and suddenly there were tariffs on practically everything from everywhere. And he was able to manipulate them up or down in order to leverage the massive size of the American economy to try to get certain countries to agree to certain deals. The Supreme Court case is really the result of two other cases that were heard in court. The first was by the Court of International Trade, who reviewed it and said, in the simplest terms possible, the president did not have the authority under IEEPA to put these tariffs into place. Now, there was all kinds of rejoicing. We were all very happy. But of course, within moments, the White House decided to appeal that. It went to the Circuit Court of Appeals, I think on July 28th, I think was the date. I don't remember exactly, in New York. And the Court of Appeals agreed with the CIT. They said that, the same thing. The president did not, under IEEPA, have authority to do this. So, wow, spoiler alert, the White House decides to take it to the Supreme Court. And now everybody's paying attention because at the time, the best estimate was that there was around 160 to 170 billion dollars that could be impacted by this. And that was largely because the case was only focused on Mexico, Canada, and China. Well, the Supreme Court hears the case, and I'll be very honest with all of you. I've never listened to oral arguments in the Supreme Court. I've never done it. And, I did pretty good in civics, did pretty well in civics when I was in school. So I know it's a third of the government. You would have thought that someone whose life revolves around decisions by the government would have paid attention, but they just hadn't. It was incredible. The listening to the arguments was wonderful. The how well prepared each and every single justice was, the questions that they asked, in particular, the comments that were made. And a couple of things came out of those oral arguments, one being that the Supreme Court seems skeptical of the government's case. And the second, of how difficult it would be to unwind this. And that's really where we are today. The arguments have been heard. It would be foolhardy for any of us to speculate on how the justices will decide, but a lot of people are speculating, myself included. And then the next big question is, okay, let's say it goes our way. Let's say that we wake up and Tariff Santa Claus has come down the chimney and we're all going to get presents. Wonderful. How on earth is that much money going to get refunded? And how difficult will it be? what are the likely courses for it to happen? And I guess that's why we're talking today.